5 quarterbacks taken in the top 10, the New York Jets continue to rebuild yet again, and the Tampa Bay Bucks look to run it back in 2021. All this and more coming up on the College Press Box Mock Draft Special. Good evening and welcome into College Press Box. I'm your host, Matt Marinchak. Tonight we have our annual NFL mock draft. I'm joined by a great panel of analysts with Adam Ogburn, Jordan Geelhoed, Jaxon Schwichtenberg, and Clark Dalton. And with that being said, Adam Ogburn and the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock.
Yeah, the Jaguars with the number one pick this year, and this is number one pick has been anticipated ever since Clemson beat Alabama 44-16 in the national title game 2 years ago. No doubt about this one. With the first pick in the NFL draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go with Trevor Lawrence to open the Urban Meyer era in Jacksonville. Lawrence coming off a year where he led the Clemson Tigers to the semifinals, threw for 3,150 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He'll have talented running back James Robinson joining him in the backfield in Jacksonville. He'll also have a plethora of receivers. DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault are back, along with former Longhorn Colin Johnson. And the Jaguars also added Marvin Jones Jr. and Philip Dorsett this past all season. So it'll be interesting to see what Trevor Lawrence can do in Jacksonville. And with that, the number 2 pick is on the clock, and I'm going to send it over to the New York Jets.
Thanks, Adam. So excited for the 2021 College Press Box mock draft. And with the second pick in the 2021 NFL draft, the New York Jets select quarterback Justin Fields, the Ohio State University. Now, there's a lot to like with Justin Fields this year. You see he has the prototypical arm strength. He has the prototypical size. But one thing that really stands out with Justin Fields on the tape is his ball placement. Every time he throws the ball, it lands exactly where the receivers needs it. It's kind of like a little nest that it lands into, like nice and softly, so the receiver can get a couple extra additional yards. And that's why he completed 70% of his passes last season. And another quality that you can't teach with Justin Fields is the quality of resilience. Throughout his football career, he's been doubted. In high school, everybody was saying Trevor Lawrence was better than him. He goes to the Elite 11 camp. His team wins. He wins Elite 11 MVP. Then he gets to college, doesn't get to play at Georgia for a year, has to go to Ohio State, throws 40 touchdowns, but loses in the college football playoff semifinal game to Trevor Lawrence and Clemson, but comes back the next year, beats Lawrence, and leads Ohio State to the national championship game. I know a lot has been said about Justin Fields, but when you look at all these qualities, that's something you need in an NFL quarterback, and you can't teach that. And I think he's going to be a really good player at the next level. Let's toss it over to a team that is a little bit closer to winning a Super Bowl, the San Francisco 49ers with Jordan Geelhoed.
Thank you, Clark. With the third pick in the NFL draft, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking Zach Wilson, quarterback from BYU. They traded up a lot of picks in order to get here at number 3, and I think that they're 100% picking a quarterback, and Wilson is as good a choice as any here. He had a really breakout junior year after a pretty pedestrian first and second years, but he had a monster statistical show, and what really stands out with Wilson are his big-time throws. He's got a big arm. He's very accurate. He can fit the ball into tight windows. And what I think is Wilson's greatest strength is that he's a really gifted improviser. He can extend and make plays when his offensive line, his pocket collapses, or his receivers don't look like they're open. He can really make plays out of nothing. And while no one's going to confuse him for, Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton when it comes to his rushing ability, he's got enough mobility to keep defenses honest, and he's a willing rusher if he needs to. He got 10 rushing touchdowns this past season, and he plays with a lot of swag and a lot of confidence. Think, someone like Baker Mayfield or Manziel when he was in A&M. Not necessarily Manziel when he went to the pros. That wasn't that good. It's not all great for Zach Wilson. Some critiques are that he played against a low level of competition. Remember, he went to BYU. He didn't go to Alabama or LSU or Oklahoma. And he went 2-4 when he played against top 25 teams. So that's not great. But really, that's wins and losses are a team stat. You can't blame that all on Wilson. And sometimes he can be a bit inconsistent in his accuracy and his decision-making. Sometimes he tries too hard to make the big play happen. Even though the big play is one of his strengths, he passes up a lot of easier and safer chunk plays for just really long bombs down the field. I think that while some people think one good year might translate to a flash in the pan, a bit of a boom or bust, I think that Wilson will be a really good fit for a pretty complete 49ers team, but one that needs an elite quarterback in order to compete in the NFC West. And I will pass it then to Matt with the Atlanta Falcons.
All right, so the Atlanta Falcons have plenty of weapons in offense with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Todd Gurley, and Hayden Hurst. But they do need a quarterback in the near future. They do have Matt Ryan, but looking at him, they've been trying to get rid of him the past couple years. So I think they do go quarterback number 4, and they go with Alabama's Mac Jones. Jones had a huge breakout season last year, helped lead his team to a national championship. He's an accurate passer. He's great at reading defenses, and he's an Alabama guy. We all know the Falcons love those Alabama guys. They have Julio and Calvin from Alabama, and just Mac Jones. He's going to be a guy who needs some development. He's not going to start right off the bat. I see him probably backing up Ryan for a year, and then they'll probably trade Ryan for some picks or something, and then Jones will get the starter nod for the team. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to the number 5 pick, Jaxon and the Bengals.
All right, so with the Cincinnati Bengals, they started the season aiming for the number 2 pick. They didn't need Trevor Lawrence because they just drafted the defending Heisman winner, Joe Burrow, at that time. However, their offensive line was in shambles. If you have paid any attention to the Bengals offseason social media, you saw Joe Burrow's sitting in the king chair, but the thing that everybody noticed was the giant scar running down his leg where he tore his ACL. So because of that reason, I think the Bengals are going to go with Penei Sewell over, say, Jamar Chase. The Bengals have had pretty good luck developing great offensive tackles. Anthony Munoz comes to mind. However, where Munoz excels in pass blocking, Munoz excels in run blocking. You've seen all of his accolades over the past few years. He's great in combo blocking. However, he does struggle against athletic edge rushers, like outside linebackers and very athletic defensive ends. The Bengals did sign Riley Reid, so I've seen that's why a lot of people believe that Jamar Chase will be the pick here. However, the Bengals Penei Sewell has stated that he can start at guard for a year while he develops, while Reif plays, or they can switch spots. Reif can move in the inside at guard where he played at Iowa, and Penei Sewell can start at guard. I think this is a cannot miss pick, a must-have for quarterback Joe Burrow. And now I'm going to kick it off to number 6, the Miami Dolphins, and Clark, take it away.
With the 6th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Kyle Pitts, tight end from Florida. Now, this is hyperbolic, but Kyle Pitts might be the best tight end prospect we've seen in 10 years. He caught 12 touchdown passes last season, and you have to remember, this is in the SEC, which is one of the most competitive conferences in the country, with teams like LSU, Alabama every week, and in all of those games, Kyle Pitts shined and made big-time plays. And also, you had to look at his combine as well. He's 6'6", 240, but he's running a 4.4 40. That's extremely impressive and mind-blowingly fast for a tight end. And it's a good fit in Miami because you have a young quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. He showed signs of promise last year, but didn't always play consistently because he doesn't always have great weapons around him. Devontae Parker's really good, but he's not really a tall guy that can stretch the ball downfield. With Kyle Pitts now, you can do that. And this Miami Dolphins team, which looked like it could be a playoff team a year ago, becomes much more scary in the AFC, and they have a bright future ahead of them with Kyle Pitts. And now I'm going to toss it to the Detroit Lions with pick number 7.
Heading up to the NFC North, the Detroit Lions, they made a huge trade in the offseason, swapping their quarterback Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff, and now they're going to continue focusing on that offense. With the 7th pick in the NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions are going to go with Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU. Now, Chase opted out of the 2020 college football season due to COVID-19, but he had a huge 2019 season. You see it there, 84 receptions for 1,780 yards and 20 touchdowns. In his final collegiate game against Clemson in the national championship, he caught 9 passes for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a need the Lions desperately need filled. They lost Danny Amendola Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay this past offseason at 6 foot and 208 pounds. Jamar Chase will bring a perfect blend of speed and size, and he also has experience playing against talented SEC corners. I think he's an immediate plug and play as the Lions' number 1 receiver, and he's a great get for the team at number 7. Now moving on to the number 8 pick in the draft. We're staying in the NFC, but going down south for the Carolina Panthers.
Thank you, Adam. I tossed up a little bit on this pick, seeing as the Panthers have a lot of needs, but ultimately, with the 8th pick in the NFL draft, I settled on the Panthers taking Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle from Northwestern. This guy is over 300 pounds. He is a big man, but don't get it twisted. He's very mobile. He's faster than you think. He's fluid. He's got good footwork. And what I think is best about his game is that he's very versatile. He's played tackle and guard both on the left and right sides. And not only has he had experience in all those, he's excelled in all those positions as well. He can really fit in anywhere the Panthers need on the O-line. He opted out of 2020, but in 2019, he had 0 sacks allowed, only 5 pressures. That got him a Big Ten honorable mention. And probably his most impressive feat was when he went up against Chase Young. Yes, that Chase Young, number 2 overall pick, Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2019. He neutralized him, allowed him to get 0 sacks and 0 pressures. And he was the only offensive lineman who did that to Chase Young in 2019. And he's going to have to continue to do that against good NFC South D linemen like Cam Jordan, Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, those kind of guys. There's not really a lot to knock on Slater. He doesn't have great arm length, which you kind of need when you're a tackle, but there's really nothing major negative. He should be a starter at the end of his rookie year, if not day 1 after training camp. And now I'm going to kick it to Clark with a team that I know is near and dear to his heart, the Denver Broncos. Clark, what do you got?
Yeah, you're definitely right on that one, Jordan. The Denver Broncos, you can see it right over my shoulder right here. They need a lot. But with the 9th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select quarterback Trey Lance, University of North Dakota State. Now, folks, I know you're saying, wait a minute, the Broncos have a quarterback in Drew Lock. Sorry, he wasn't getting the job done last year. They won 6 games. They really struggled in the passing game. And it's not like this team doesn't have dynamic weapons. They have Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy, who was a Biletnikoff winner in college and showed a lot of signs and promise. He's probably one of the best route runners in the 2020 wide receiver draft class. And now with Trey Lance, you're wondering, well, what is he all about? Well, the last time he played in 2019, he had 42 total touchdowns on the season and threw no interceptions. He's a smart decision maker. And also one thing that really stands out with him is his arm strength. There's a phrase you hear scouts say a lot, that this guy has a rocket arm. Well, Trey Lance doesn't just have a rocket arm. He has a nuclear missile. He can throw the ball anywhere downfield. And I think it's going to take some time for him to develop. But once he develops that chemistry with all of Denver's playmakers, the Broncos will be right back in AFC West contention. And with that, I'm going to pass on the 10th pick to Adam Ogburn with America's team, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep, how about those Cowboys? Wasn't the year they were exactly hoping for those. They struggled due to the loss of Dak Prescott due to injury. And looking at that defense, their defense gave up the 10th most yards and the 5th most points in the NFL last year. And that is why, with the 10th pick in the NFL draft, the Dallas Cowboys are going to go with cornerback Patrick Surtain out of Alabama. Now, he's got the genetics to play in the NFL. His dad was a Pro Bowl quarterback for a decade in the National Football League. And looking at the Cowboys corners, they have a really talented quarterback in Travion Diggs. But they did lose Chidobe Awuzie this past offseason, and Jordan Lewis is not exactly what you want in a top 2 corner. He's more of maybe a number 3 or number 4 on the roster. So when you have a talent like Patrick Surtain still available, he's been really the consensus number 1 quarterback throughout the draft process. He was very good at Alabama his freshman year. He played a lot, had an interception his sophomore year. He had 42 tackles and 2 picks, and in this past season, 38 tackles and 1 pick. He's really good on the outside, really good at playing man coverage, really good at pressing, jamming receivers across the line. I think he could be a big get for the Cowboys as another lockdown corner to play across from Diggs. Now, with the 11th pick in the NFL draft, we're staying in the NFC East, but moving up north, and we'll see who Matt has with the New York Giants.
The New York Giants had some key free agent sign-ins in the offseason, both on offense and defense. But I do think that defense is something they still need to work with. So with the 11th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Giants are going to select Micah Parsons, linebacker from Penn State. Even though he did opt out of the 2020 season due to COVID, in his career actually, no, in 2019, he had 109 total tackles, 5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and he was great. He was an outstanding player in his first 2 seasons. He looked good during pro day. He's the kind of linebacker that has great speed. He's great at stopping the run, and he'll be a good fit in Patrick Graham's 3-4 defense, and will be a good complement to the current inside linebacker, Blake Martinez. And now let's go ahead and pass it over to Jaxon with the 12th pick with the Eagles.
All right, so the Jalen Hurts experiment is in full swing. They have a new coach, Nick Sirianni, coming over from the Indianapolis Colts. And what better to say hello and give a nice warm welcome to both coach and quarterback by selecting the 2020 Heisman winner, Devontae Smith from Alabama. So nobody can doubt his skill set. We saw in the national championship game where Ohio State for over 200 yards in just a single half. We saw he almost had 1,900 receiving yards, 24 total touchdowns. And then compared to the rest of the Eagles receiving corps, none of them surpassed 600 yards. The Eagles do not have a great history in selecting first-round wide receivers, but I think this is a cannot miss pick. He is a tiny receiver who plays like an outside receiver. He has an excellent catch in traffic and route running skills, much like Devontae Smith. And I don't doubt, like many others who doubt him based on his frame, I don't doubt that he can bulk up in the NFL. I mean, that is their entire job, is to have these receivers ready to play. And I believe with Devontae Smith, with Jalen Hurts, I think it is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. So next, we're going to kick it across the country with the Los Angeles Chargers. Clark, it's all yours.
All right, Jackson. And now with the 13th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Elijah Vera-Tucker, guard, USC. Now, the Chargers are pretty much set on most of their offensive line, but one big weakness within their offensive line is their interior game. That was an area they really struggled blocking with last year. Austin Eckler, he suffered an injury early in the season, and then they tried to insert Justin Jackson last year. They had a lot of trouble running the ball, and that was something that cost them some games late in the season. When we knew they blew a lot of leads, because they couldn't run the clock down at the end of games, and then they had to force Justin Herbert to continue to make plays throughout the game. And that's another key point in this pick, is the Chargers already have their quarterback of the future. We know what Justin Herbert can do. He was the 2020 Rookie of the Year. And now that you have him, whenever you have that young franchise quarterback, you want to protect him for as long as you can. The Colts learned from their mistakes with Andrew Luck. They didn't draft offensive linemen until it was too late. The Chargers, don't make the same mistake. Get this offensive lineman, Elijah Vera-Tucker. He's really good. He was a first-team All-Pac-12 in 2020. And another thing that was really interesting, I thought, is he earned the Morris Trophy. And what that award is in that conference is it's the best offensive lineman voted on by all of the players in the Pac-12. And he earned that award. So that's not just an award at USC, but that's the entire conference saying, hey, this is the best offensive lineman in this draft class. And with that, I think the Chargers are going to be secure in their offensive game plan for a long time, and they'll be able to compete in the AFC. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to the Purple People Eaters in Minnesota with Jordan Geelhoed.
Thank you, Clark. The Minnesota Vikings, they had a really good offense this past season when you think about Dalvin Cook or the Rookie of the Year, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, but their defense was really a glaring weak spot. And so I think that they pick a player who's really going to beef up that front line. They take Kwity Paye, edge rusher from Michigan. And if you look at this guy, I mean, he is a freak athlete. He's over 260 pounds, and yet he ran a 4.5 40 with a 35-inch vertical, which is hard when you're that big. He opted out part of 2020, but his 2019 stats were enough to keep him towards the top of the edge rusher class. And what really stands out when you watch him is his explosiveness and his change of direction. He's speedy in pursuit. He's speedy getting around the line. He turns offensive tackles into turnstiles the way he gets around him. And he has all the intangibles you want. He's a great team leader, and he plays with 100% effort on every down. He's always looking to go downfield and hit someone. Now, he's got kind of a small sample size. He only has 19 collegiate starts under his belt, and he's not really the most polished or finished product. Sometimes he relies on power more so than technique or finesse, which means he can be locked up by more skilled linemen. But when you have as much power and as much raw talent as Kwity Paye has, I don't see how the Vikings pass this up, as he fits their scheme really well. And if they want to compete with the Packers for first in that division, they're going to have to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And I think Pay is the player to do just that. All right, now I'm going to kick it to the New England Patriots with Matt Marinchak.
All right, so the New England Patriots re-signed Cam Newton this offseason. They also signed some veteran wide receivers in Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne, but they still lack a true number one wide receiver. So with the 15th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, New England Patriots are going to select Jalen Waddle, wide receiver, Alabama. Waddle is a speedy, explosive wide receiver. We saw him get it done in 2018, 2019. In 2020, his season was cut short because of an injury, but he was able to come back for the national championship game, and he really didn't lose a step. He showed how versatile he was on the kickoff returns, running the ball, catching the ball. He's going to be a downfield threat for Cam Newton and probably going to be the true number one wide receiver for the Patriots. So let's go ahead and head over to the desert with Adam Ogburn and the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, the desert or Cliff Kingsbury's playground. How about that Cardinals offense? They have Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and they also picked up James Conner and A.J. Green this offseason. So all is looking well on offense, but the defense needs help, especially in the secondary. Patrick Peterson signed with the Vikings this past offseason, and two other corners for the Cardinals, Jonathan Joseph and Kevin Peterson, are both still free agents. So corner is a glaring need for the Cardinals, and that's why with the 16th pick in the NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals are going to go with J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. He's another corner with NFL genetics. His father, Joe Horn, earned 4 Pro Bowl appearances in a decade as a wide receiver in the NFL. And for J.C., he had a number of offers, but he ended up going with South Carolina, and he made an instant impression. He started 10 games his freshman year. He played all of his sophomore year, started all 12 games for the Gamecocks. This past season, those stats you see, 16 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 6 pass deflections. That was just in 7 games as Horn chose to opt out after Coach Will Muschamp was dismissed when the Gamecocks had a 2-5 record. He's got plenty of length at 6'1", 205 pounds. He's a very physical corner, too. He loves man coverage. Again, he'll be another lockdown corner option for the Arizona Cardinals. The one thing to watch out, he is a very physical corner, and that is a very good strength for him, but it's a fine line to walk. His aggressiveness occasionally can get him in trouble with penalties in the NFL, especially pass interference. He's a very proactive corner. So that'll be one thing the Cardinals will have to make sure they have under control in order to watch the penalties. But with that, we're going to stay in the West. We're going to go up to Las Vegas and see what Jaxon has with the Raiders.
All right, for number 17, the Raiders just got a brand new fancy stadium, so why not get a brand new fancy linebacker who can do it all? I'm going with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah for the Raiders. The Raiders have so many defensive holes in their lineup. They rank 26th in the league, both bottom 9 in both rushing and passing yards. They allowed 24 rushing touchdowns, and this is where I think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah will be such an important player for them. He can do it all for this defense. Jonathan Abram has been playing the strong linebacker, but his skill set is needed in the secondary. They're terrible in the secondary. With Owusu-Koramoah, I believe they'll plug him in right there. He's a day one starter. They can kick Abrams back out to the short safety position. And let me give you one more interesting stat. Koramoah, according to PFF, he had the second highest slot coverage grade. So if that doesn't tell you about his skill set, I don't know what will. Now, he is a little bit undersized, and he will struggle against really big tackles. But I think with his athleticism and his football smarts, I think he can overcome it and will be a great piece for the Raiders. Now, let's go see what Miami has in store for their second pick. Jordan, it's all yours.
That's right. We got Miami picking their second pick of the first round, one of 3 teams to have multiple picks in the first round. They addressed offense with their first pick with Kyle Pitts, and I think now they go with the defensive side of the ball and take Jalen Phillips, edge rusher from the University of Miami. He gets to stay in Miami, which I think is good for Phillips, and it's going to be really good for the Dolphins, as this guy is the real deal. His 2020 stats were insane. He had 45 tackles, 15 of those were for loss, 8 sacks, 1 interception. He's a powerful edge defender with a lot of speed and elusiveness, and he's really going to put pressure on those more mobile AFC East quarterbacks when you think about Josh Allen or Cam Newton or whoever the Jets are going to pick. And he's got all the traits you want in an edge defender, like literally all of them. Pick one. He's got speed, size, power, length, good bend, good footwork, good hand usage. And he's technically sound too. He's got the physical part of the game down, but he's really refined his the technical side of his game too. He's got a diverse set of pass rush moves. He knows when to employ them, and he can read and react to the ball well. He can drop back in coverage if he needs to. He's had one interception, this past 2020 season got him a second-team All-American nod. Now, one glaring issue with Phillips, and this isn't really on film, is his injury history. This guy has had multiple concussions, one of which was caused from a car accident, which forced him to medically retire from UCLA before he decided he wasn't done playing football. He transferred to Miami. He had his season there. And that injury history might scare off a bunch of teams who are worried that might happen again. Without those concussions, he could have been one of the first defensive players taken off the board in this draft, as I think he's an all-around great player. I don't know how, even with the risks involved, that the Dolphins pass up Phillips at this point. I think that they're a team that values a tough defense with Brian Flores at head coach. Obviously, you got the Miami connection. I think that Phillips is a slam dunk pick. And now we're going to see what the football team has to offer us.
All right. After losing Trent Williams last season, the Washington football team is in desperate need of an offensive lineman. With that being said, with the 19th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Washington football team selects Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech. Darrisaw was a second-team All-American, first-team All-ACC. He's a great blocker. He's great on the pass block. He'll protect the quarterback's blind side. And he played well against some of the top defenders in the ACC. Played well against the defensive ends at Clemson. You know, they're a defensive line powerhouse. Played well and held his own against Brian Burns, who was a first-round pick a couple years ago. So in Washington, Darrisaw should be a day one starter, and I expect him to have a long, good, successful career over there. And with the 20th pick, it's going to go over to Chicago and Clark Dalton.
Well, fans, you've been waiting for a long time to get back in the NFC North, Chase, and I think with this pick right here, it'll get you right on that track. With the 20th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Rashad Bateman, wide receiver, Minnesota. Now, Bateman doesn't have the same box office appeal as a Devontae Smith or a Jalen Waddle or Jamar Chase. Yes, I know that, but let's consider something. You know, I always like players who are productive when what surrounds them isn't as strong as other places. Now, Bateman at Minnesota in his final season was averaging 13 yards per catch. That's a first down every time he touches the ball, and that's really impressive considering his supporting cast. Tanner Morgan is the quarterback at Minnesota. He's not a very big guy. He's only about 5'11" or 6 foot, and that means Bateman, every time he's getting the ball in his hands, is accommodating for that. He's making plays. He's making his team much stronger and helping them advance downfield. And that's something that's really, really important at the next level, is it's the ability to get yards after the catch. And also he has some good dimensions. He has really long arms and he's 6'2". That's a great height for a wide receiver. And he's a good complement to Allen Robinson. And in a lot of ways, he's really similar to Allen Robinson. And he's a good fit for Andy Dalton, who's a quarterback who relies more on checkdowns, doesn't really throw the ball downfield a lot. And in the future, when the Bears are looking to draft another quarterback, they'll have Bateman developed and ready to become a star player. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to the 21st pick.
Alrighty. Well, I was really tempted with the Colts pick. I was really tempted to take an offensive lineman or an edge rusher. Anthony Costanzo just retired, leaving a huge hole in the left tackle position. But this tackle class is so deep, and we haven't had too many of them drafted, that I'm going to go ahead and extend kind of a limb here. I'm going to go with Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. Now, this guy, he's only played corner for about 1 or 2 years. He opted out in 2020, but if you look at his stats on the screen, 12 pass deflections, 4 interceptions, 1 touchdown. This guy has all the makings of being a lockdown corner. Now, Xavier Rhodes will be on the other side, so Caleb Farley is not being thrown into the fire as soon as he gets in the league. In fact, one of the worries about him is that he's coming off a back surgery back in March, off of a herniated disc that he suffered in 2019 and re-aggravated it while in workouts. But with a cornerback room already consisting of Xavier Rhodes and Kenny Moore and Rock Yassin, he's in no pressure to rush back and re-injure that. re-injure that disc so he can take his time to rehab, recover, get back into playing shape, and get the Colts right back to the playoffs. So with that, we're going to keep it in the AFC South. We're going to kick it over to the Titans.
All right, so the Tennessee Titans, they had a great past few seasons with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, but after a slow offseason, they did lose a lot of key defenders on their team. They lost their top two cornerbacks, Dory Jackson and Malcolm Butler, and their top corner right now is Kristen Fulton. He's a second-year guy. He's not really your true number one cornerback. So with the 22nd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Tennessee Titans are going to select Greg Newsome, cornerback from Northwestern. Newsome is a great physical corner. He's great on the press. He's very well versed in man coverage and cover three. He did only have one interception in his entire college career, but he has had 24 pass breakups. His play last season earned him a first-team All-Big Ten and third-team All-American honors. Expect him to be a day-one starter with Tennessee. So let's move on for the second pick for the New York Jets with Clark Dalton.
Yeah, Matt, the Jets, they're really going to have to hit their draft this year if they want to get back into the AFC. It's getting much tougher with the Bills and Dolphins, but I think this one will help. With the 23rd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Zaven Collins, linebacker, Tulsa. Now, Zaven Collins is a defensive coach's dream, which Robert Saleh is for the New York Jets. He's exactly what you draw up when you think of a middle linebacker. He's aggressive, but not too aggressive. He can also drop back into coverage a little bit. He's really good at coming off the snap. He's not afraid to tackle. He wraps up ball carriers immediately. But what stood out to me the most is you have to consider he went to Tulsa, which is not a football power, and it's in the American Conference, which isn't as revered as the Big Ten or the SEC. But still, in spite of that, he was a unanimous All-American in every linebacker award that you can think of in college. The Bronco Nagurski Award, the Lombardi Award. He won every single of those awards, and that's going up against players who are from Alabama, who are from LSU, who are from Ohio State. That just shows you how good he is. And if the Jets want to be competitive at all, they need a great defense to match an offense that's just as good. And the linebacker is the quarterback of the offense, and putting Zaven Collins in your locker room gives you a leader and a player who can play on top of that. And the Jets should be extremely happy with this pick. And moving on to the 24th pick with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Thank you, Clark. The Steelers, they had a kind of a mixed season last season. They started out 11-0. Their defense was fantastic, but they really fell off a cliff in the second half of the season, and they got embarrassed in a playoff loss to the Browns. A lot of that was due to the one-dimensional nature of their offense, and so I'm going to pick someone who's going to help out with that here, and I'm going to take Najee Harris, running back from Alabama. Now, if you look through Alabama's record books, you will see Harris's name all over the place as he balled out all 4 years there, but he really went off in 2020 as he had almost 1,900 total yards, 30 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per carry. It got him the Doak Walker Award, which means that he was the best running back in all of college football. He got first-team All-SEC honors and was the SEC championship game MVP. And what I really like about Harris is that he excels in short area runs. He's very elusive. He's got sharp cuts, good wiggle, but he's got plenty of power too. You know, he's a violent runner. He will truck a guy into the ground, yet he still possesses a lot of that finesse. And he has got insane balance. You know, he made really good defenders just bounce off him. If they don't go in with their best form tackles, you're not going to be able to get him to the ground. And while he lacks that kind of game-changing acceleration and burst, he is very quick, and he's an underrated receiving back, which you wouldn't really guess looking at his size. He runs clean routes. He's got good hands. He's a true three-down option, and he's a capable pass blocker if he needs to. I think that this is a great pick for the Steelers as our running back is a gaping hole after James Conner left. He can start day one if needed, and he can really compete with the running back loaded AFC North. When you think about Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris can really compete at that level. And so I think that I'm going to kick it now to Jacksonville.
All right, so the Jaguars already had the first overall pick with Trevor Lawrence. But I do think, as they do need to get him some offensive weapons, you can get that later on in the draft. So the 25th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Jacksonville Jaguars select Trayvon Mullen, safety from TCU. Motoring is a great safety. He's the best safety in the draft class, and he's the Rain and Throw Award winner for a reason. He's a menace on the field. He excels at picking off passes, breaking up passes, and laying the boom on defenders. Morton will be an impact player and has the potential to be a Pro Bowler down the road. And let's kick it off to the 26th pick in the Cleveland Browns.
All right, so I believe the Cleveland Browns have a pretty well-rounded roster. Baker Mayfield, I believe, has his starting job locked up for the near future. The offensive line and receiving core, the offense for the Browns is just fine. Now I'm going to turn it over to the defense a little bit with an upside pick here. I'm going to go with Gregory Rousseau out of Miami. So with Miami paired opposite to Jalen Phillips for the past few years, he has been a stat monster. If you just look at those stats right there, 19 and a half tackles for loss, almost 16 sacks. That stuff cannot be ignored. He's very explosive off the line, and he's very agile enough. He's a small enough frame and is agile enough to quickly change directions and really just shake off tackles. He can work both in a three-point stance and over tackles. But I do think he needs a little bit of development time, and he won't be their defensive end or their top defensive end. I'm not worried about that because they signed Jadeveon Clowney in the offseason and have one of the best defensive ends in football in Myles Garrett. So paired opposite of Myles Garrett, I think Rousseau can be a nightmare for offensive lines. Just needs a little bit of development time, but that's totally fine for the Cleveland Browns. And now we're going to stay in the NFC North. Jordan, go ahead. What's your pick for Baltimore?
Thank you, Jackson. As you can see with the Lamar Jackson and Ray Lewis jerseys behind me, I have a bit of a personal stake in this pick. I think that the Ravens, they need one or two more pieces in order to really push them over the edge for contenders in the AFC, whether that's a receiver or an offensive line or my pick, edge rusher. I'm going Azeez Ojulari from Georgia. This guy, he is he's 6'2", 240 pounds, and he is all muscle. If you look at him shirtless, he compares to DK Metcalf. He's built like Superman. His 2020 stats were great. He got second team all SEC. And what I really like most about him, and this isn't on film, but he has got a great character. He was named team captain of Georgia as a freshman. And if you just look at his teammates and his coaches talk about him over the years, they can't praise him highly enough. He's got impressive strength and explosiveness. He plays bully ball. He can move linemen where he wants, which means that he excels at run stuffing. He plugs lanes. He's quick in pursuit. He's quick in change of direction, and he's great. And he's a great tackler. If he gets his hands on you, the play is over. You are going to the ground, which is good in the physical AFC North. He's got great hand usage and balance. Now, he does have a limited arsenal of pass rush moves, which I think that he could expand some more, and he could refine the ones that he's already got. And he's a bit undersized when you look at other edge rushers, like, as Jackson said, Rousseau or, Jalen Phillips or something like that. But I think that he's one of the most pro-ready edge defenders in this class. He's got great technique, and he fills a need that the Ravens have after losing Matt Judon and Unique Ngakoue in free agency. And he'll go to a team in the Ravens that really values a tough, hard-hitting defense in a tough, hard-hitting conference. All right, now I'm going to kick it to the New Orleans Saints and Adam Ogburn.
Yeah, the Saints, obviously the big news out of New Orleans this offseason was the retirement of Drew Brees, but with the Jameis Winston still there, Taysom Hill there as kind of a gadget guy. I think the Saints go quarterback at some point in this draft, but it won't be in the first round. Instead, they're going to turn to the defense. Their defense was actually pretty good last year. They only gave up the fifth least passing yards in the NFL last year. And they have a talented corner in Marshawn Lattimore. The question is, though, for the Saints, who will be that number 2 corner across from him? Who will be a guy who can step up? They have Patrick Robinson and P.J. Williams, but there are kind of some question marks surrounding those players. So that's why I think the Saints go corner with the number 28 pick in the draft. They'll take Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. Again, more NFL pedigree. His father, Asante Samuel, won 2 Super Bowls and was named first-team All-Pro twice during his 10-year NFL career. For Samuel Jr., he opted out after 8 games this past season, but still earned an All-ACC selection, as well as racking up 3 interceptions to go along with 30 tackles. He is a great tackler in that sense. He's also a very physical player, but you look at his size, 5'10" and 184. That'll be the question mark. could see him play more of a slot quarterback role for the New Orleans Saints. He's had some issues too getting his head around in coverage, but his agility and his footwork will allow him to succeed as a quarterback. So I think the Saints bolster the defense as they look to have either Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, or maybe another quarterback try and lead them to be a contender in the NFC. Next up, with the 29th pick in the draft, we're going to send it over to Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers. Clark, who are the Packers going with this year?
Definitely not a quarterback this year. With the 29th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Christian Barmore, defensive tackle, Alabama. Now, Christian Barmore is one of the most interesting prospects in this year's draft class because usually at the defensive tackle position, that's sort of a hard-nosed player. They're a player who's always getting converged upon by the center and the offensive guards. So usually you don't see them get in the backfield a lot and disrupt the passing game and get to the quarterback. But that's exactly what Christian Barmore did in college. He had 8 sacks all season. That was top 15 in the country. And he was the defensive MVP in the national championship game against Ohio State, where he was able to really get some pressure on Justin Fields, make him force some throws. He's a really unique prospect because usually at that size with 6'5", 310 pounds, you don't see someone that mobile getting to the quarterback so quickly. And that's something the Packers need because a lot of their best pass rushers are coming up for free agency in the next 2 years. And in the NFC Championship game, the reason they didn't win was they couldn't get to Tom Brady. And if the Packers can do that moving forward, they can get right back to the Super Bowl. This is a team that can win now. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have much time left. Green Bay, select a player who can help you win a championship, develop Christian Barmore into that player. And now with the 30th pick, the only place that I can think of that is colder than Green Bay, the Buffalo Bills and Jackson.
So I think Bills Mafia will be a little bit perplexed with this pick. He is definitely a project player, but I'm going to go with Jason Owe from Penn State. So if you look at his sheet, you see that he has 0 sacks. It is extremely misleading. This man is has the potential to be a sack machine. I'm going to read you a couple of stats from his pro day. He ran a 4.36 40, had a 39.5-inch vertical and a broad jump of over 11 feet. He has a very rare length and an exceptional bend and would be perfect on the outside of the defensive line. He may transition into outside linebacker in future season. Their linebackers are getting a little older, but right now, as he develops, he will spend a lot of time on the line. His frame is very weak against the run, and is one thing that Buffalo has struggled against, but he can sit behind the Bills' defensive line and pair with last year's first-rounder A.J. Espinoza. This guy can bring a lot of pressure on the quarterback if you can just wait maybe a season or two. So for that reason, I think Owe is the perfect fit for the Bills. And at 31, the Baltimore Ravens with their second-round pick. Adam, who they got?
Yeah, the Ravens made shockwaves this past week when they traded Orlando Brown to the Kansas City Chiefs. Brown had kind of raised some controversy back in January, tweeting that he was a left tackle. The only issue, the Ravens already had left tackle Ronnie Stanley, who was a former first-round pick himself. So I think if you look at Lamar Jackson, you look at J.K. Dobbins, you look at the weapons out at wide receiver. They already have Marquise Brown, Devin Duvernay, and they just add Sammy Watkins, Mark Andrews at tight end. There's plenty of offensive talent on the Ravens. Plus, Jordan already got the Ravens some defensive talent with the pick of Ojulari. That is why I think with the 31st pick in the NFL draft, the Ravens are going to draft Orlando Brown's replacement, and that is Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. He was a first-team All-Big 12 selection this year, and at 6'6", 320 pounds, this dude is a monster. He is huge, and he brings plenty of power. He's very athletic. He's a good pass blocker. And so the Ravens will still need to put a bit of polish on him, kind of, make sure get all the fundamentals down. But I've seen mock drafts with Jenkins going in the late teens to early to mid-20s. And I think with him sitting on the board still at 31, he'll be a perfect pick for the Ravens to replace Orlando Brown, get some protection on Lamar as they try to contend for a Super Bowl. And last but not least, the Super Bowl champions, Tom Brady. Let's send it over to Matt and see who the Buccaneers will add with the final pick of the first round.
All right, so the Tampa Bay Bucks, they really don't have any immediate needs. They re-signed all their starters from last year's Super Bowl team. So right now they're just looking for guys to play later on in their careers after some of these guys go off to free agency. On the defensive side of the ball, they re-signed Shaquille Barrett. They have JPP on linebacker, but JPP is entering the final year of his contract. He isn't getting any younger. He's 32 years old. So I think his replacement is going to be drafted at 32. And I think the Bucks, with the 32nd pick, they're going to take a guy who bullied Trayvon Jenkins that Adam just picked. We're going to take Joseph Osai from Texas. Osai had a great junior year. He had 5 sacks, 54 total tackles, 3 forced fumbles. But when he plays in big games, that's when he really steps up. His 3 best career games are against number 6 LSU, number 6 Oklahoma State, and number 11 Utah, having 2 sacks against LSU, an interception, and having 3 sacks against Oklahoma State and Utah. And he's just a freak coming off the edge. He excelled last season in the jack position, and he's one of those players that has all that raw athleticism, allows him to always have an impact on the plays. So I feel like having him develop a year behind JPP and then working on the other side of Shaquille Barrett, he'll end up being a great player in the future. And that concludes the first round of our draft. Last year, we picked 9 out of the total 32 picks correctly. Hopefully, we look to improve this year, but going off of all the people that we picked, who do y'all think between the 5 of us had the best draft?
Oh man, I don't want to say myself, so I'm going to go ahead and say Clark. I think Clark, he got some good picks. I really like Justin Fields.
My draft is pretty good. Thanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like it all.
Jordan and Adam, I got to say this, though. I really liked some of the picks you made. I think you did a really good job of looking at your team's needs and filling them. Adam specifically, the Cowboys need to do that at number 10. I know Jerry Jones loves his offensive superstars. I got to get my next Emmitt Smith. I got to get my next Michael Irvin. But right now, the Cowboys need a defense. And Jordan, I think you're right on with Zach Wilson right after Justin Fields at number 3 with the 49ers, because we know Jimmy Garoppolo has that injury history. We don't know how much longer he can be a primetime player. And if you get Wilson in there, maybe you can develop him for a year. Jaxon, I also liked the pick you made for the Raiders with the Notre Dame linebacker. I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, Wogosu, or I'm still working on it. But that's a really good pick because the Raiders also need some defense as well. And he could be one of the best players in this year's draft. And Matt, I kind of like the pick you made with number 4, Mac Jones. I thought that's a bit of a risk, but that kind of fits what the Falcons do. Mac Jones is kind of like Matt Ryan in some ways, where he's not this dual threat quarterback. He's a pocket passer. So sorry if I talked for too long, but I just wanted to give compliments for all those picks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like Jackson's picks. I like Jackson's first 2 picks especially. I mean, you look at poor Joe Burrow. He had barely any protection last year. I think Penny Sewell will be a huge addition to that Bengals offensive line. And same thing with Devontae Smith. He's another electric receiver who can really stretch the field. And if you're going to have someone like Jalen Hurts as your quarterback, especially on those scramble drills, you want an elite receiver like Smith who can get open downfield. And then just looking kind of through the rest of this board, I like Caleb Farley too. I thought Jackson had a really good draft. The Colts getting another corner across from Xavier Rhodes. I think it'll be fun to see, if we do get this many quarterbacks to go so early. Is Drew Lock's timeout? Trey Lance, obviously, we've seen kind of how Carson Wentz's career has gone as another North Dakota State graduate. So, Lance can make it in the league. It'll be interesting to see if he can sustain his production. And then Justin Fields, wouldn't that be fun to see what he can do with a Jets team that has really struggled offensively? Zach Wilson, again, like you said, Clark, with the injury history with Garoppolo. So it's going to be fun to see, especially to see how quarterback heavy this first round ends up being. But a lot of good picks, a lot of interesting picks. It'll be fun to see, too, if we can get a Longhorn sneak in at the end of the first round, like maybe Joseph Osai.
So I'm going to go ahead and say, Matt, I think you had one of the better drafts. Part of it because you stole all the players that I wanted to pick right after you, especially Darisaw. I have no idea how he fell all the way to 19, but if he fell to 21, I would have snagged him. And Micah Parsons, I was so wanting him to shine in a new Eagles defense, but he just stole him right before me. I love those 2 picks. I think those 2 are instant day 1 starters, and they will be, I think, all pros within the rookie deals.
Yeah, thanks, Jackson. And then I think Adam had one of the better drafts. He had obviously Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 overall pick. Everybody's expecting him to be number one for the past couple years. But look at some of the other guys. Jamar Chase going to Lions at 7. He's definitely going to be their wide receiver 1. They don't have anybody over there. The Cowboys taking Surtain. They don't have anybody in the secondary, so that's a great pick. Same thing with the Cardinals and Saints. Just filling the needs these teams need. It's a really solid draft all around. But that's all we have for the show tonight. Be sure to tune in to College Crossfire Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. for the best sports debate on the 40 acres. And wake up with the 1-0 Sports Show on Fridays at 10 a.m. For the best talk show in the mornings on campus. From all of us in the virtual studio and Master Control, I'm Matt Marinchak. Have a great night.